I remember very specifically as we were preparing our first 40 question public facing FAQ that was focused on getting started with the software. Literally writing out all those, typing out all those articles as individual Google Docs, printing each one out on paper, and around 8 p.m. in the evening in the office on my own, literally laying them out physically and trying to figure out what was an arrangement that made sense. What were the steps that you would take as a new customer to onboard here, and what made logical sense, what could be navigated through before developing sort of that navigation and pathway for our marketing team to implement on the site, because we didn't have a support site at the time. And even just doing that, putting kind of muscle to the magic of the words themselves, it moved something in my brain around what it means to deliver this experience. It wasn't just the words, it wasn't just the articles, it was really, it was an experience end to end. How do you get there? How do you move through? How do you know what to do next?
Hello, and welcome to the CX Heroes podcast. Today's guest is Joel Sandi. Joel is the Director of Self-Service at Outreach, where he leads the charge in transforming complex technical data into seamless customer journeys. He's a veteran of strategic support roles at 8x8, and he's been at the forefront of the shift from manual support to automated, intelligent self-service ecosystems. By architecting a unified support portal at Outreach, he successfully delivered over 44% ticket deflection and saved the organization hundreds of thousands of dollars, setting a new standard for ROI in the customer experience space. Joel, thanks for joining.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So I want to hear a little bit about the early days of your career. When you were getting into this field, what are some of the things that really surprised you or really stood out to you as being a hurdle or a challenge, or something that you didn't expect?
Yeah, it was really interesting. So I started out as a knowledge content editor. I was hired originally on the training team at 8x8, initially to help consolidate all of the internal notes that were being taken on the support team and turn them into an internal reference library. From there, that accelerated into looking at what we could do to put that in front of customers. Over time, the role evolved, and the organization shifted such that became part of the support operations team and owned the knowledge base experience. I think what was so interesting to learn going through all that, and also having a background in literature, a major in print journalism when print was a thing still, the idea that everything had to be letter perfect before it was in front of people and was able to be usable was so ingrained in me for so long. And actually learning that that didn't need to be a core priority, as opposed to making sure that information was fresh, that it was available, that it was engageable, and that it solved problems. That was a massive, massive revelation. And I learned that a little on my own in just delivering things to people who needed them, both internally at the company and then eventually to our customers. But also as I became familiar with the concept of KCS, or knowledge centered service, and the principles of that. And it's been so interesting to embrace that mindset and then to help other people see things that way as well. The value of information in time versus things looking exactly perfect and every comma and period in the right place. It's daunting for people who think that you need to present a certain level of polish, which is still important, right? It still needs to be legible. But learning that wasn't a critical barrier to delivering information, that was huge. And what was great about it is that it helped me help other people be involved in the process as well, and that's what allowed us to be able to scale. So shedding that outlook, and learning to roll with the information as it came in, getting it ready to be presented as sufficient to solve and not looking perfect all the time. That was a big part of the early part of my career.
Got it. Yeah, that's so interesting. I mean, you mentioned KCS, so we definitely have to touch on that. I think there's growing awareness of it, but it's still not fully adopted. Even if people don't know about it, maybe they're not practicing it. And a lot of people simply don't know about it, I think.
Yes.
So I want to get your thoughts on that in a moment. But um, what was the origin of this focus on knowledge for you? I mean, was there a specific moment or a specific event or maybe a discussion where, you know, this this importance of getting this information out, having it structured, having it available. Like when did that really become clear for you?
I was hired, there was always a long-term vision of developing an experience or at least a place where people could come and look for information that didn't exist at the company at the time. For me in my career, I knew I was I enjoyed editing. I enjoyed writing. Having spent some time in Japan doing some translation work previously and turning things that were not just technical but an entirely different language into something that someone else could read and understand and get value from. That was always something that was intriguing to me. When I was originally looking for opportunities here in the US, um, it was on support teams. I like the idea of using what I could understand and imparting it to other people. Originally, I was looking at roles in like chat and email support and writing things that way. And then this opportunity at 8x8 came up to to take what was already being written down or get people to write things down so that we could structure it in a way that it could be reused and refreshed. So it was really the opportunity was already there. It was just a chance for me to develop it with my own vision, to find a path towards how do we take all of this unstructured information that's all over the place. It was literally like copy pasted email responses, things from people's notepads, Google Docs here and there, and learning about what was common among all those things, what were some themes I could package things into. I remember very specifically as we were preparing our first 40 question public facing FAQ that was focused on getting started with the software. Literally writing out all those, typing out all those articles as individual Google Docs, printing each one out on paper, and around 8 p.m. in the evening in the office on my own, literally laying them out physically and trying to figure out what was an arrangement that made sense. What were the steps that you would take as a new customer to onboard here, and what made logical sense, what could be navigated through before developing sort of that navigation and pathway for our marketing team to implement on the site because we didn't have a support site at the time. And even just doing that, putting kind of muscle to the magic of the words themselves, it moved something in my brain around what it means to deliver this experience. It wasn't just the words, it wasn't just the articles, it was really it was an experience end to end. How do you get there? How do you move through? How do you know what to do next? And at what point do we offer a ramp towards assisted help and making sure that the people who are helping you on the other side are empowered to deliver a final resolution? So it was really neat.
Yeah, there's quite a few lessons in there, I think, for people as well. And there's a lot of organizations today that have done some kind of knowledge base, but maybe there's one person who does it when their ticket queue, their ticket backlog is not too bad, or
Mhm.
maybe at a certain size there's a team member or team members who are responsible for it. But what do you think about this idea of sort of democratizing the knowledge creation process, having more members do more updates more broadly?
I love it. I love it. And as we mentioned, I'm a practitioner of KCS. We implemented it at 8x8. We've implemented it at Outreach, and it's amazing. I think democratizing the knowledge base does so much more. I mean, the way to sell it or one of the ways we sell it to executives is that it allows us to scale, right? If I don't have to hire a team of expensive writers, but I can deliver the volume of information that we need to allow a self-service program to be successful, that's always going to be a strong selling point. But what it does for the organization in support, and if you can evangelize it beyond support, is it's almost undefinable. It means so much more, I think, as a vehicle for cultural change. My favorite part of democratizing the practice of knowledge gathering and delivery and management uh, has not actually been the success we've had with deflection and with delivering end user solutions. It's actually been teaching support agents how to be a part of this, showing them that they're capable of it, giving them a new skill, a new tool set, a new level of confidence and things that they can do, and proving to them that we believe and that they should believe their job is more than closing one ticket and moving on to another one. That every ticket they work has meaning beyond what is on the screen in front of them at any given time. When they close that ticket, and as part of closing that ticket, they've collected new knowledge, they've shared knowledge with the end user, they've validated something that exists, the ripple effect of that across the rest of our customer base, across our organization, what that means to people and helping them understand that has been the best part of this whole journey. I think it's been my favorite thing. And so I love it not just because it means we do more with less. I think I think it means we do more with more. We've just unlocked more from each other. And I don't mean that obviously in a purely like cold utilitarian way. I really feel like it brings people up. It adds something to their day to day and it adds something to their career that I'm really proud to be able to impart.
Yeah, well said. Well said. I think it's kind of obvious of knowledge is power, right? Maybe it's a little too obvious that people just look past it as, oh yeah, of course, right?
Mhm.
But practically speaking, the impact for the organization, for the team, for the individual is huge. Of course, for the customer, right? The customer wants to come in and find what they're looking for.
Yes.
And there's this huge scope of information that customers want to know about a business. And most often, businesses only have a small fraction of that actually published anywhere, let alone accessible, right? So, you know, that's sort of the scale of the opportunity, and you've talked about the impacts in good detail. I think, my next question for you is, what's the on ramp to KCS? Again, so KCS for people out there who don't know is knowledge centered service. It's a whole methodology that's been quite well established over many years. But often, I get people asking, like, okay, yeah, KCS sounds great, but how do I actually get started with it?
Yeah, I mean the impetus for us was really a YouTube video that I was introduced to through. Hopefully, it's okay for me to name drop a provider here, but so
Yeah,
DBK David K of DBK and Associates, who is a consultant who specializes in KCS among other customer practices, actually was someone we had worked with to implement customer journey mapping at 8x8. But through him, we learned about the idea of KCS. And he has a great, I think it's now a 6 minute KCS introduction video on YouTube. That was the starter for us in understanding there's an opportunity for us to do more because before thinking of something like KCS and the democratization of knowledge, even if you're thinking of scaling knowledge management across your organization, it seems like such an overwhelming job. How am I going to write and produce more content, manage that content going forward? How do I get people whose first complaint is going to be, this is not my job to be a part of this? And that video really just very quickly, very succinctly, and very clearly helped show us what it really means to do this. And you know, the the saying that the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time really holds true. But you got to know where to start those bites to really work your way through it effectively. And so it's really about having a plan. There are a lot of core principles in implementing a KCS program, but the first one is the same as any initiative that you really want to drive forward inside of an organization. And that's getting that sort of executive buy-in, learning how to tell people, we're going to do this, understanding what you need to ask people to commit to. Um, Leadership here is vital, vital, vital. No KCS program can be stood up and will last if it is solely the responsibility of the KCS program manager to own and drive everything. It really is a cultural and a mindset shift, and it's the way we've always introduced it when we've looked to implement it at organizations, to tell people we're not just doing business process change here. We are changing the way we think about how we help customers, the way we think about how we engage with the tickets we create. And the ticket is the vehicle to the knowledge and to the delivery of a solution to a customer. The ticket is not what our job is anymore. And that's something you just have to continue and continue and continue to say and illustrate and exemplify to people. You build champions, you get people on your side. One of the cool things that we've been able to do at Outreach as we've matured the program is introduce an ambassador program where we bring technical support engineer into our council, our KCS council. There, they sit with us and with the managers. They help us make decisions. They tell us what the vibe is like at the agent level. And have their eyes open to other career opportunities on the operations side, in leadership. But they help us then to impart coaching and new ways of enabling the program among the agents. And then we rotate those folks out, but we retain them in a stable of champions. They get recognition, but they are new catalysts for us for making sure that this is engaging. And so KCS is, as much as the business driver of it is to develop a body of knowledge that will help us to deflect and to deliver solutions and keep things fresh and operate with efficiency, is really about the people doing it. And as the important thing is to focus on that. If you keep your focus on the people who are practicing it, you'll find a way through. People think you have to be able to do KCS by a certain book and hit every single note. And the fact of the matter is, you don't. You just have to make sure that people continue to stay motivated and are engaged, and you keep an eye on it. And to the effect that you can keep that going and keep that wheel turning, you're doing something right.
I think it's really easy to look at the elephant and say there's no way we're going to get through this, right? And I think a lot of organizations, when you're looking at changing processes, when you're looking at culture change, um, they might be excited, but they're more worried about the risks and more worried about distraction from the other priorities they have. So I think as you said, it's absolutely crucial to have leadership involved, to have you know have buy-in at all levels, to stay engaged, to keep following up with people, and using resources that are going to succinctly explain the value. So you mentioned this, David K. I think you said DBK Associates
Yes.
intro video. I'll try to look that up or get it from you, and I'll link it in the description for people who want to check that out. That's great. I think we need more of that kind of thing so people can really have a smooth on ramp. One of the things that I wanted to ask you about today is, sort of where we are in the present moment, right? There's so much going on. Obviously, AI is kind of everywhere all the time now, um, and from my view, knowledge is the foundation of AI results, right? It is where you pull the levers and push the buttons and make the adjustments that make AI actually work, as opposed to just being some pie in the sky kind of pixie dust thing. How do you think about this interaction between the self-service experience, the knowledge base, and of course AI that powers that?
Yeah, it's exciting. I think, it's one of the first things, uh, especially once you've got a support organization that is engaged in producing the knowledge, one of the first things they ask is, am I writing myself out of a job? Am I doing something that is just going to hasten the robot apocalypse, right? And so what we try to help people understand at the outset is, no, what you're doing is you're freeing yourself up from answering these questions that are easy to just write down answers to, so that you can do the real work and solve real customer problems, the things we hired you for, the things that we know your brain is capable of. But as we engage more with AI and AI solutions, there's just so much opportunity, I think. I think we're at a place right now where we can help our agents be better at producing more consistent content that can then be delivered more effectively by AI solutions that are in front of customers, and then allow them to also internally access more of that in aggregate to help make faster decisions when they're doing the real work of helping customers live, and not just sending them off to read an article. There was a point early on with chatbots and things, even at the cusp of LLMs, where I was finding it difficult to feel comfortable with what was being delivered inside of a chat window. And I was building experiences that were very specifically delivering a summary response with links to the source articles. I wanted you to go back to the documentation. I wanted you to read it end to end. I wanted you to understand every nuance because I didn't trust the AI to deliver what I felt would be a complete solution inside of that experience. We seem to have, not 100% every single time, but in a lot of ways blown through to being able to deliver like complete solution guidance inside of a chat experience now, which is so neat. I love now the idea that we could take that and make it more personalized, more contextually appropriate, to say, you have just had this issue, this is your context as a user or as an admin. These are the things you need to do and check out next. And if that doesn't work it out, I'm going to open a support request for you and collect all of this immediately. So the opportunity we have now to help with more efficiency, to provide information not just to the customer, but to agents on the other end who are going to be doing additional work to bring something to resolution or raise something to light to the product team internally or to engineering, that to me is extremely exciting. I don't think that we're at a place now where AI is going to make it so that we don't need people in the process anymore. I think it makes it so that as people, we are more effective in what we do. We deliver more, we deliver faster, we understand better, and we can get to the business of engineering solutions faster. So I'm really excited by the whole prospect of all of this, and knowledge slots right in there with it, because you have to have information collected about how these things work and how we arrive at troubleshooting steps and resolution in order to reach the finish line most effectively.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's this, you know, once you've spent some time, trying to optimize an AI experience, once you've spent some time looking at your knowledge base, looking at the source material that the AI is pulling from, the scope of the new challenge and the new opportunity unfolds. And I think a lot of people are just approaching that precipice, or just approaching that gateway, right?
Yeah,
And looking at it, seeing there's this whole new landscape,
yeah,
right? And there's new challenges, there's new opportunities, there's new directions for careers, and I think that there's a lot of it's all the same things that happen with every technological cycle. Yes, there's a messy transition usually. Yes, some people get fired. I think it's usually a waste, and usually people should simply be retrained or reallocated, and it would be better for the business overall.
100%.
But I think that there's, in general, there's this huge opportunity. And one of the big challenges that I'm seeing, and I'd love to hear what you think about this, is this sort of the context management problem, right? So the context is like all the things that the AI is reading from, including the customers, chat messages, and then and how do you sort of structure that, from a technical point of view, but more from an organizational point of view, because you have to have all these sources unified, right? It's not just knowledge articles today. You might have webinars, you might have blog posts, you might have, how-to courses. And these things don't just live in the support team, they live across departments, right? So, and of course, again, like we know as practitioners, that, the customer experience is not, it's not segmented by department, it's one thing, right? The customer experience is one journey. They don't experience like, oh, I'm talking to the sales team, I'm talking to the marketing team, I'm talking to the support team. It's like one experience. So, can you speak to a little bit to this, the silo challenge, the unification challenge, and sort of how you thought about the process and the, maybe the discussions that you're having around that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean it was huge for us when we first stood up our support site at 8 by 8, and when we came in to outreach and wanted to improve that experience. Unification of knowledge, making one place where you could come and find information across your company's, information ecosystem was critical for us. We knew going in that not only were only some agents well versed in what lived where, but even those who knew where things were had a hard time getting to them in a consistent way, right? So it was core for us early on to look for a provider of federated or unified search. So that's where we started things. And even that alone, I mean, can make a support organization a hero in the company because there's no one else in the company that's doing it for whatever reason.
Right.
It's just
Right.
not priority. People have their webinar library, and as long as they feel like on their webinar library you can search for the webinar videos from there, they're happy and they feel like that's enough. Or they've got the blogs, and if you can find the blogs from the blog page, that's fine. But you got to get to the blog page first and know it exists. And as an end user, you have to know, well, I go to support dot whatever for support, and then I go to the regular.com for this, and then I go to dot slash blog for whatever, right? To bring everything together in one place and to have it at an end user's fingertips is so key. And then later, and especially with the advent of AI and more intelligent ways to interpret user searches and asks, being able to deliver the right resources at the right time for people was so key. But it was really it's been a demand for us, with leadership, and as we talk about the kinds of tooling that we need to deliver the self-service experience, it's always been core and critical for us to say we need to be that hub because no one else in the company is that hub. We need to have a place where a user can come in and find what they need across the entire information ecosystem here at the company. And they shouldn't need to know exactly what they're looking for and what type of resources it's in. They just need the information, right? And so whether that's going to be through a learning course or through a webinar or through a knowledge article or through a blog or through some combination of those things that really delivers a full end-to-end contextual answer for whatever it is they're trying to accomplish, we need to be able to deliver that all at once. And so it is really important, certainly among providers we've worked with and changes we've had to make for organizational reasons. We've had our ups and downs, our highs and lows. We've learned a lot about what's important to folks. And we've gone through all the stages of like every search page needs to be filterable down to the nth degree. And now, like, really, what you want is a search bar or an experience that just understands what people are looking for so that they don't have to do the work of filtering down on their own. It's been just to watch that develop in that space has been fascinating. And then to be able to reap the benefits of that in building an experience that incorporates those capabilities has been really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've gotten pretty specific, we've gotten pretty detailed so far in this conversation. I'd like to briefly zoom out a little bit, and if you could talk a little bit about the impact of all of this. You know, what is what is the impact on the overall customer experience? What is the impact on the organization?
Yeah, absolutely. The customer experience is interesting. I think I think most customers, all they want is an answer. They need a path and a resolution. A large part of, you know, where a lot of customers, especially in the B2B spaces, in SaaS and software, where maybe end users have wanted a lot of hand holding in the past, especially, has been a distrust of what is available as documented, or whether something was documented altogether. Especially when we're talking about the types of complexity that come along with enterprise software. We also worry, I think, as customers, about whether or not we can even engage with the documentation in order to be effective with it. And so, what's been interesting, I think, of the impact of first the idea of gathering this much knowledge and making it available out there. Now, with the advent of AI, we can deliver more for customers without them needing to or even wanting to engage until something critical that cannot be resolved by automation or information is happening. I think the other thing that's really cool too is that, we've done so much to this point with a focus on break fix. We find out what kinds of issues a user tends to run into, and then we document the ways to overcome those issues, whether that's the fix or the workaround. To the extent we're able, we try to bring those things up internally to our product teams and our partners in engineering and say, hey, this is an experience that doesn't work well. We've written it down for you. Can you do something about it? But we've evolved now because we are so engaged with customers and with what they're doing and learning about their context, especially as a practice in KCS, that we can start to write for use cases now and for larger initiatives that one might undertake with whatever software or product it is that we're supporting. And so that's been really cool to see as well. There's been this it's been a little bit sometimes of a painful evolution, I think, between customer service and support, customer experience, success teams, product marketing, and PMM. And there's been this melding of sort of objectives and intentions that, again, is not always comfortable as it's happening, but the outcomes have been so cool. And I think turning inward for the company as well and the organization, that has built such amazing bonds and partnerships that have been so fruitful in my career in the organizations I've been a part of, because all of us now think of the customer experience in our various respective realms as something that's part of an interconnected whole. It wasn't just marketing does this to generate leads, and then sales closes those leads, and then success sets up some QBRs so people feel happy with what they've got, and then all the rest of it goes to support when the customer is not happy to kind of turn a solution around. But we didn't do a lot to engage with each other. And then above that, you've got engineering and product management looking able now to look end to end at the experience that we're able to deliver together and determine what needs to happen next, both from the perspective of our developing customer base and the market as a whole. So just so much information is available, so much can be aggregated and understood now, that it's just fascinating to be a part of and to take a step back sometimes and look at.
Awesome. Yeah, great stuff. I think there's so many teams out there, there's so many organizations that want to make this transformation happen. And I hope, as people listen to your story, that they realize that they can do it too. It is an attainable goal. And of course, having the right leadership buy-in, having the right partners in place is going to be really critical for that. But it takes a certain leap of faith. It takes a certain personality, maybe. Um, it also takes a certain type of job description. And I wanted to finish up the episode here with your thoughts a little bit, looking to the future. How do you see job descriptions changing? How do you see roles changing? What are the skills that maybe the VPs, the heads of, the directors of, maybe a CXO or a CCO? What do these people need to be looking at as far as how do they allocate their team, and what are their team should be working on? What those jobs and tasks should be in this environment, 2026 and beyond.
It's interesting. I was having a similar conversation with some colleagues not too long ago. There is, again, and we're in this transitional period now, and it's very squishy and oftentimes uncomfortable. There's a level of, I want to say, vagary that has already been introduced in new job role descriptions today that is something I think even 3 or 4 years ago would have been, we would have called a red flag, right? Say, why, what are you asking me to do here? But it's I think being able to be versatile today is massively valuable. You obviously want to balance that with a level of some expectation setting around what the scope of your operations is going to be. But the expectation, I think, these days and as we go forward is going to be, having a multi-tool persona and background, and knowing how to leverage the tools that are available to you. We've gone, I think, from, you have to be someone who knows the Microsoft Office suite. You have to know Excel. We want someone who, has used Zoom extensively in the past and knows how to administer that. And then even from that, for a brief period, it was like, you have to know how to use ChatGPT or Claude or some other LLM. You just need to show that you are resourceful. You are aware of the tools that are available and you implement them effectively. And that's where we're headed right now, I think. The sort of, at this point, the internet has put so much at our fingertips. There is uh, an expectation of awareness and of engagement with the things that are necessary to be, successful operational practitioners right now, and especially in the back office and operations space, where you need to be able to put together not just build process and decks and workflows, but understand where you can be most efficient and what you can teach people to be efficient at. And so I think you're going to see a lot more of what we would probably right now call vagary. But the idea here is not to be evasive. I think employers are trying to prepare themselves for a future in which they want to have people who will continue to be here and engaged and have a lasting impact, but defining very hard borders around exactly what that will mean in a given role gets harder and harder and is restrictive to ensuring that you can bring people on that will develop and grow and will develop and grow your business and the programs they're a part of.
That is a great summary of the situation, and I think a great view on the future as well. We are absolutely in this time of transition. It is vague and it is shifting, but I think you're absolutely right. I mean, the sort of the multi-tool personality, the readiness to learn, the flexibility to adapt to change. The tools are changing, the processes are changing, and so bravo to you. Well said. I mean, I couldn't agree more overall. I want to wrap up the episode on this note. This has been a thoroughly enlightening conversation for me. I hope everybody out there has enjoyed this as well. And this has been Joel Sandi. You can connect with him on LinkedIn, reach out, ask him questions. He's clearly a great resource. And we will see you next time on the CX Heroes.
Thanks, Ben.